Before we get started in the Dharma talk, please join me in invoking the Buddha's name 3 times. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Dear Venerable Abbot, dear Sangha, good afternoon. Sorry, what? Oh, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so we are continuing on with the Dhammapada. We're on chapter 4, verse 46 today. I've said multiple times on how every time we've come across a specific verse, I'm like, oh, this is one of my favorite verses, but you know what, they're all my favorite verses. But this verse in particular was the verse that single-handedly changed my entire life. This is the verse that led me to who, where, and what I am today. This verse, through contemplation and insight, was life-changing, literally. Here I am as a monk, right? And this is the verse that caused that spark. So verse 46 goes at, knowing that this body is like foam, comprehending its mirage nature, one must destroy the flower arrows of Mara and never see the king of death. Knowing that this body is like foam and comprehending its mirage nature, one must destroy the flower arrows of Mara and never see the king of death. This verse was given to a monk that after he was given a topic of meditation by the Buddha, went into the forest and started to meditate on that object of meditation. However, after some time, the meditation wasn't really doing anything for this monk. He wasn't comprehending anything. He wasn't getting any insight. He felt like this topic of meditation was not sufficient. And so after some time, he got up and started to walk back to Jeta Grove Monastery, back to the Buddha, to request a different topic of meditation. On his way back, since it was during the summer and it was hot, he saw a mirage out in the distance as he was walking. And this mirage sparked this thought about his meditation, because his meditation object was on the first of the 4 foundations of mindfulness, which is the body, the mindfulness of body. And so when he saw this mirage, he recognized that just like the mirage, that is an illusion, the body too is an illusion. The body too is impermanent. The body too comes and goes, lives and dies. And then so after this realization, he decided to kind of go with it, and he found a tree to sit underneath next to a river. And as he was sitting underneath this tree and observing the river, and he was seeing, how the waves come and go and how they splash against the rocks, and little foam bubbles create around rivers, this sparked another insight, right? And kind of pretty much similar to the mirage, right? Just like bubbles come, they are created and they seize once they pop. And so knowing this this monk having these realizations, the Buddha knew what this monk was going through. The understanding that the monk was coming to. And so the Buddha would tell the monk that you are on the right path. You are close to realizing the impermanent nature of the body. And so then he gave this verse to the monk, again, knowing that this body is like foam, comprehending its mirage nature. One must destroy the flower arrows of Mara and never see the king of death. And once this verse was given and the monk started to contemplate on this verse specifically, he then attained arhatship and he became fully enlightened. And so this verse, though superficially may not spark the same realization that it did for me to you, but it is, I'm getting kind of emotional right now because it's reminding me of the moment of clarity. So after his realization, or during the meditation of his realization, right? Because the Buddha was advising him, advising all his monastics, all his disciples, cut off all attachments to the body and the attachment to sensual pleasures, to sensuality, and try to go beyond death. Trying to go beyond death and never see the king of death, who is Mara. Mara is the metaphor we give to our defilements, to the poisons, to the things that create suffering, right? And so the realization that the monk had weren't really insights from like the Vipassana meditation, right? The Vipassana meditation, specifically meditation on the four foundations of mindfulness. So he didn't really receive any direct insight necessarily, but because he was still dealing with concepts and comparisons, right? And then there are the kind of concepts that will lead one to cultivate and develop this sense of urgency, the sense that we must go further and more deeper into our practice, more intense in our practice, and then we can realize those things. But they can lead us to a real cause of a kind of shift in our mind of knowing that we've hit something that caused a realization. And having just that taste of it will give you this sense of urgency to want to taste more, to want to achieve more, to want to attain more, until that final full enlightenment is realized. And that's really the first stage of meditation too, is to see things as they really are, what we're dealing with, and what things make up this ultimate reality of ours. And so the flower arrows that is mentioned in this verse, the flower arrows of Mara, these are the arrows that are tipped with flowers to deceive us from seeing what really is. So you may see a bed of beautiful flowers outside somewhere, but underneath there's a snake. Isn't that from Macbeth? So what you see on the outside, right, this beautiful bouquet of flowers is beautiful, but underneath there are all the poisons of Mara, all the pleasures of Mara. So the idea of a flower-tipped arrow means that there's poison underneath, or a sharp blade underneath. So when you try to pluck or grab the flower, or the blade, or the snake that's underneath, then it poisons you, or kills you, or at least causes you suffering. So this is how we understand sensual pleasures, that all that we cling to are based on the idea of concepts. So Buddha says that you can't cling to something that is arising and ceasing. When you look at reality and the reality of our experience, there's nothing there that you can cling to. So if it's a moment of seeing, It arises and ceases. The ultimate reality of it is that something that you can't cling to. So think of when you see a bed of flowers or a bouquet of flowers. The seeing of something that is beautiful can't be clung to because it arises and ceases, right? As soon as you go away or shift your vision elsewhere, the image of the flowers disappears. So we can't say in a mundane way that the flowers exist. Because as soon as you shift your vision elsewhere and the flowers disappear, can you prove the flowers actually existed? Not until you look back around and see the flowers. But because something arises and ceases, right, there is change. That means that in its reality is not real. So the ultimate reality doesn't really lead us necessarily so the ultimate reality doesn't end or lead us to clinging, but it's our inability to see the ultimate reality. And so we take these things as concepts. Think of the body, right? This body is me, these hands are mine, this head is mine, right? And so on. I'm tall, I'm short, I'm fat, I'm skinny, I'm ugly, I'm beautiful. All these are just concepts. All these are the things that we cling to as entities. This is what creates our attachment and the things that we attach to. And so when you're able to see reality, you have no reason to attach to them. You have no reason to cling to them because you can see the ultimate reality behind things. And so when you see flowers or nice trees or fruit trees, right, this is your own sense of gratification. They give you pleasure when you see them. But then there's the danger of sensuality. And the danger of it is that it's not real. It's like a mirage. It's like foam. It comes and goes. So there's a very important danger to that because there's a reality underneath of this reality. And that reality is changing. Right? Change is our reality. So think of the reasons why we fight, why we argue, why we cheat or suffer, and why we waste so much effort on trying to attain even the smallest bit of sensual pleasure. It's all because of our attachment to these concepts that we have, these false realities. And so all of the suffering that we have is because we can't get what we want all the time. And because of the object of sensual pleasure aren't real, the underlying reality is impermanent. It's unsatisfying. It's uncontrollable. So you may enjoy something. You may enjoy something wonderful, but when someone comes in and ruins it, then what? Right? If you've created this beautiful flower bed somewhere, I think it was the example that Max brought up last week of something I said years ago, is when you have a bed of flowers and you've cared for it and you've grown it and you've nurtured it and added all these fancy flowers, expensive flowers, and it's your little bed of baby flowers, right? It's yours. Let's say someone comes in and ruins it, steps all over them, plucks them out, pulverizes all these little flowers they've spent months or years nurturing. And then you point to this person and say, "You've caused me unhappiness." No. It didn't cause you unhappiness. Your attachment to the flowers is what caused you unhappiness. So that's everything. That's the reality of all our experiences. That's the reality of all of our attachments. Is that you don't have an attachment necessarily to a bottle of water. And if the bottle of water is, it's a terrible example. Well, maybe we can use a bottle of water. Let's say this is your bottle of water. This is your personal bottle of water. You've made the bottle, you've watered it, you've put the water in, you've taken care of it, you take it everywhere you want to go, that you go. and then someone comes and drinks your water or steals your water. The act of stealing or of the water being drunk isn't what's causing you suffering, but it's your attachment to this bottled water that's causing you suffering. Someone took my water. Someone drank my water. Yeah, so what? That's pretty much everything else we have. Your car, your house, your relationships, your job, the things that you have in life. Right? The things, think of your personal items, right? What do most people not leave the house without? Keys, wallet, and phone, right? I always do that triple check every time I leave. It's annoying. It's a habit. It's an ugly habit. The point is think of the phone. Think of your phone, right? For most people, they try to take care of their phone. They try to keep it clean and safe and not being dropped or broken or whatever, right? But then think of it falling. Let's say the case was off. Let's say my case is off right now for this phone, right? So if it fell and broke, most people are going to be annoyed. They're going to be sad. They're going to be upset. Oh, my phone broke. My precious $1,200 phone. It's broken. It breaking isn't really the reason of your unhappiness, of your suffering, but it's the attachment to the phone, and that because it changed, right? It is no longer in perfect, pristine condition. But because it broke, the screen broke, or maybe a button came off, or whatever it may be, because change happened beyond what you want it to be, that's what's causing you suffering. And so along with that, we unfortunately also give people power over us. We give situations power over us, right? It's an incredible weakness in the world, because it's an incredible weakness to the world to be addicted to sensuality. Because this is where they get you, right? Think of just commercials. Every single commercial is there to catch you. If you like food, for instance, or pizza, and you see a commercial for pizza, you're like, ooh, that looks good. I want that. Let's say you're shopping for a new car and you see an ad for a car. BMW, Lexus, Nissan, Toyota, whatever. Maybe like, ooh, that's a nice car. Maybe I'll get that car. So every single commercial is there to literally grab you in and make you conform to society's ways of causing you addiction. But even people, when they know of the things that you want, right, they will do things to manipulate you. But you can't be manipulated if you don't have any wants, right? So if you're unbothered by anything, then there's no way for you to be manipulated. If you're able to do away with delusion. And if you're able to see things as arising and ceasing, right? Arising and ceasing is just another word saying permanent, right? Permanent means that something does not change. But there is not a single thing that you can point to in this room or in this world that you can say is permanent. Things will last for a very long time, but they cannot last forever, right? And so seeing things change, this is why we get this is why people get obsessed with working out or diets or trying to lengthen their lifespan. I don't want to get old. I don't want to get decrepit. So I'm going to work out, I'm going to run, I'm going to do these workouts, I'm going to do all these diets and all these nutrients and vitamins, supplements to extend the life, to better their life. right? They're addicted to not dying, essentially, which is a stupid thing to be addicted to. So when something's inevitable, it's the dumbest thing to be addicted to, right? So if we're able to see things as the ultimate truth, as ultimate reality, and we're experiencing reality as just seeing, as hearing, as tasting, as touching, as thinking, right? All these are ways that we're able to neutralize the poisons, right? What are the three poisons? Ignorance, greed, and anger. And so seeing things as they really are, which is the main objective of meditation, right? That's the only way that we're going to be able to escape the grasps of Mara. Only way that we're going to escape the delusion that we see of the world is to be able to recognize those delusions, see them for what they really are, and then cut them off, cut the attachment to sensuality, so that we're able to cut the attachment to sensuality so that we can cut the attachment to sensual desire, right, at its root. And this is what it means to see things as they are. It's not as a result that you don't experience sensual pleasure, but that you don't experience sensual desire, right? Because there's a difference. So when you eat, your body is physically feeling pleasure because you're eating something good, but the mind can't feel that same type of pleasure. Because when you eat something, you drink something that's good, eat something that's good, do things that you enjoy doing, all these are physical pleasures for the most part, right? But they all have the same thing in common. They come and go. They arise and they cease. They're impermanent. And if something is impermanent, that something cannot bring you lasting happiness. Even mental happiness in some way, shape, or form. The feeling of being loved or loving, right? That's more of a mental stimulus than anything else. Or the feeling of accomplishment. Say you graduated or something, or you got a promotion, or whatever it may be, right? All these are mental pleasures. But these too are fleeting. They're also not true reality either. If we go back to our meditation classes when we were covering the 5 jhana factors, the third jhana factor is joy, piti. This piti is a joy that arises without any cause, right? So meaning that you don't need a promotion to feel that joy. You don't need to love to feel that joy. You don't need to buy a new house or a new car, whatever it may be. You don't need something that's external, that's outside of yourself to feel that joy. It is a joy without any cause. And that is the only true type of joy. And that is the joy that we try to achieve during our practice. Is that lasting joy? Because that is the only thing that is real and does not require any outside efforts. I can probably teach for a whole month on some one verse. It's such a profound verse, at least it was for me. But it showcases what we all go through on a daily basis, right? Think, and I think I said this last week, think of anything that arises in the mind, any desire that arises, any want that arises. You have to ask yourself, you have to question yourself, why? Why do I desire this? Why do I want this? Where is it coming from? Why is it arising? It's not good enough just to say, oh yeah, I want food because I'm hungry. No, it's not good enough. Because if you think about it even deeper than just wanting food, you're going to recognize that there's a type of food that you're wanting. It's not just food. You don't have to have a $100 steak to survive. You don't have to go to fancy restaurants and buy fancy food to survive. You don't have to have a mansion to survive. You don't have to have the most expensive car to survive. Right? You can eat porridge every day and still survive. You can live in a tent and still survive. You can work or drive around in a beat-up car that's 50 years old and still survive. So it's important to recognize not just what we want, but why we want it. Because there is delusion, there's illusion, and there's deceit and ignorance behind all those desires. And that's what's most important. So always question yourself. Always question what arises in the mind, especially if it's a thought of desire. Because it's okay to have sensual pleasures, right? It's okay to enjoy the foods that we eat. It's okay to enjoy the drinks that we have. It's okay to enjoy the things that we do with our body. What's not okay is our addiction to it, our desire, our attachment, our clinging to those things. Linda's a runner. She runs probably every day. I don't know how often you run. You run often enough, and that is unappetizing to me, right? But I don't know her mind, but I'm just going to make a general false statement. Okay, I'm not actually like insinuating in what I'm about to say. But let's say that Linda's addicted to running, right? Because running can be an addiction, right? Because it does things chemically in the body where it's going to want you to want more, right? So it can become an addiction. But then let's say chopped off her legs. Not me. Let's say her legs got chopped off. Or someone said, this hopefully never works, never happens. Or someone says you can't run anymore. What do you think is going to go through your mind? The sadness of you not being able to run? Or the sadness of the feeling of running? Is it the sadness of the desire that you cannot run? Is that what's going to cause you suffering? What do you think is going to cause you suffering if someone chopped off your legs and said you can never run ever again? What is going through your mind?
It's my way of exercising control over my world. That feeling.
I like the word they use, control. Because even a lot of things that we do in life is to give us a sense of control. I'm going to go run to take care of my body. That's my way of controlling what I do to stay healthy, to stay fit, to stay active, right? Everything we do in life is to have some sort of grasp, some sort of control over our situations. But unfortunately, if you really think about it, you don't really have that much control to begin with. You have a type of control that's within your realm of doing. But then again, if you've got your legs chopped off or someone demands that you never run again, then you've lost that control. You've lost that sense of control that I can do this because I want to do this. That's another important dangerous concept as well, or dangerous thought to have as well, is that if you have the sense of doing something because you want to control it, that's also going to be a form of attachment as well. Having a sense of control is also an attachment. Think of a terrible boss, maybe, right? I'm sure everyone in one way, shape, or form, whether through your own experience or through others' experience, someone has had a boss that has what's a nice way to say this? Being PG. The power of being a manager get to them, right? What's the word? There's what is the word? There's a phrase that I can't think of it. When someone has like too much power hungry, right? They're power hungry. So they try to go and just micromanage everything. They try to tell you what to do because they're the boss, etc., etc., etc. That's a dangerous sense of control. Because at any moment, that control can be taken away from you. You can get demoted. You can get fired. You can get replaced. Then what? So again, it goes back to always questioning yourself, always questioning your decisions, always questioning your desires. Because again, it's not necessarily a bad thing to have desires, because we all have to have desires in life. We have to have a desire to want to succeed in our profession. We have to have a desire to succeed in our vocation. We have to have a desire to want to better ourselves for our community and for the world. These are good desires to have. What causes desires to be unhelpful is the attachment that we have to them, the clinging that we have to them, right? That's the second noble truth. The first noble truth is that in life there's suffering. The second noble truth is that the cause of our suffering is our attachment to the desires. So we already know that we suffer in life, right? And you can say every single person in any circumstance, in any situation, every living being in this world has suffering. Even if you're the richest person in the world, you still suffer. Whether you're suffering because you want more money, right? The desire for wanting more is still suffering. So we all have that sense of suffering in common. But we all have levels of desire, or levels to the attachment to our desires. And so our main objective in our practice is to recognize the desires, recognize the attachment that we have to desires, or the type of clinging that we have to our desires, and be able to neutralize them, to be able to eradicate them, to be able to pluck out at the root those desires. Sometimes they're very obvious. Like if you just think of your life on a very superficial level, you can probably think of 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 things that you have an attachment to. Your car, your house, your partner, situationships, friendships, whatever it may be, right? Those are superficial things. But it's more important to go dig deeper, right? So when we sit down for meditation, we do contemplation, and we really try to analyze the mind, right? Because that's the whole point of meditation, is to analyze the mind, to see the mind for what it is, to see what arises in the mind, where it arises from, how it arises. And then we can dig down deeper and deeper. So this is why we do why meditation. Well, why am I wanting this new job? Why am I wanting this promotion? Why am I wanting this new house, bigger house? Why do I want a nicer car? Why, right? You have to dig down deeper and deeper and deeper. So every time you get an answer for your why question, you get an answer, you ask another why. You get an answer, you ask another why. Then you get another answer, you get another why. So we have to really drill down deep into the core, into the root of that desire. And sometimes it'll take some time. And the reason why it takes time, because the mind, again, is egotistical, and it wants all these things for you. And so the mind's going to fight you really, really hard to make sure that you don't realize that core root cause of their suffering. It's going to throw every little flower arrow at you. Oh, look at this pretty little memory that we just remembered about our partner, or our parents, or our childhood. Oh, remember this nice thing that you like, right? So it's going to bombard you. It's going to throw all these arrows, these flower arrows to you, to distract you from recognizing or in finding out that root cause of that suffering. So it's really important to push forward. It's really important to fight your mind trying to block you from that realization. Because once that realization happens, and that aha moment is recognized, your life will change. You'll see the true reality of things. You'll see the true understanding of things, of the teaching or of the concept or whatever it is that you're meditating on. And it will push you forward. Just the way that this monk pushed forward and recognized that the sense of urgency, right, after his initial recognition or realization, there's a sense of urgency there, and he had to push forward. Likewise, when you have that recognition, that realization, even if it's not a full realization, but even if it's just a little taste of it, right, you just got a little sample size of realization. But that little sample size, that little sample scoop of ice cream that you had, is going to be enough to persuade you to want to get more. Right? Think of a sample ice cream, right? And we all had sample ice cream before. I'm like, oh, this is good. Give me a. Likewise, when we have a sample size of an insight, of a realization, we're going to want more as well. And that's our job for the rest of our lives. And once that recognition, once our realizations happen, and we defeat Mara, because Mara again is the analogy of our suffering, of all our defilements. And once enlightenment happens, full enlightenment happens, then we'll never meet the King of Death, whom is Mara. Because now that we are unenlightened, we're just going to be born and born over and over again. Right? In this cyclical existence of samsara, over and over and over again. So we're not free because we keep coming back. We keep getting imprisoned. But it's not until that we destroy the flower arrows of Mara, destroy all our passions, all our sensual pleasures and desires, all of our suffering, that we can finally sever this cycle of coming back. And we never have to see Mara ever again. We never have to meet the King of Death. Because enlightenment has no death. There's no rebirth in enlightenment. Enlightenment is true and complete freedom of all the things that keep us in the cycle of birth and death. Okay, I'm going to stop talking. Otherwise, I'm going to talk the next month nonstop. Questions, concerns, emotional outbursts? Yes, ma'am.
Out in the woods. And with the flower analogy, not only did I see what you were talking about with the impermanence, but for me, and this is something that I, through my studies in Buddhism, I carry with me in every aspect of my life. Not only is it about the impermanence and the not getting attached, but in the analogy of where somebody stomped on your flowers and you had spent months and months cultivating and everything, that was your happiness. Mm-hmm. It wasn't the moment your flowers got stomped on and you were like, you ruined my happiness, because your happiness is over. It was already ended. It was the process of you cultivating those flowers and watering them. That was the moment of happiness, and it's impermanent. So it ended the second that they were killed, but you've already lived that happiness. And it's true with everything, even like in relationships. If my husband was to die tomorrow, I've already had my happiness, and it's impermanent. But and it doesn't mean I'm not going to cry like a baby and mourn him. But I had my happiness already.
Right.
And it ended.
Right.
Because it was impermanent, but it was already experienced.
Correct.
And it wasn't like him in body him the way he is, it was in the experiences that I've already had with him. That was the happiness. That was it. And it's just like, even in running, it's not, well, okay, well, I've got a race tomorrow. Yay, this is making me so happy. It's, I've already had the happiness. I left it out there on the trails. That was the extent of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's done. And so, and it makes me realize that that's the impermanence part of it. It's also not having that attachment to, well, you're responsible for bringing my happiness by stepping on my flowers. No, the flowers have already given you happiness, and you've already gotten what you're going to get from it.
Right.
That's the illusion.
There's a real fun story, Zen proverb, or it's not really a proverb, it's a story of two monks, an older monk and his younger student. They were walking somewhere, they're trying to get somewhere, and they had to cross this river. And at the river, they saw this young, beautiful woman who needed assistance to cross the river. And so the older monk basically put her on his shoulders and walked her across the river with the other monk, and put her down, and they both parted ways. And the whole time, the younger monk was kind of flabbergasted that his teacher was carrying a woman, right? Because according to monastic precepts, we're not allowed to touch. For monks, they're not allowed to touch women. Nuns are not allowed to touch men. Whatever. And so the younger monk was in this whole mind. He's like, "Oh my God, I can't believe my teacher, who's this supposedly realized monk, broke precepts, right?" And so for the entire journey, this younger monk was just pouting and just all pissed off, right? And eventually he couldn't stay silent. And eventually he asked his teacher, was like, "Teacher, back there you did something that broke precepts or against what we are practicing," and whatever, right? His little conclusion. And the older monk just kind of laughed at him, like, "I picked up and left that woman miles back ago, but you're still carrying her. Who's suffering, me or you?" Right? So the idea of flowers, as you mentioned, you create the flowers. The experience of the flower making of the bed is what brings you joy, right? Yeah, the flowers, growing and looking pretty, like that's the product of the happiness, but that is not the happiness, right? And so, but the reason why people are upset when the flowers get stomped on is because they're attached to it. I put work and effort into this. The attachment is because they want it to always be there. They want it to be permanent. And so when they come to the realization that it's no longer permanent, they get upset. They get unhappy. They suffer. So the idea of things changing, right, going back to this, the ideas of things changing and not wanting them to change is the cause of our suffering. So enjoy your relationships, enjoy your job, enjoy your family, enjoy your kids, enjoy the things that you do in life, but don't take them with you everywhere you go. So when you're meeting your husband, you're spending time with your husband, from whatever hour to whatever hour, you enjoy that experience. And when the experience is done, let it go. Because if you hold on to it, like the younger monk just holding on to that concept of, "Oh my God, my teacher was carrying this woman," you're going to continue to suffer. Yes, people die. People age and get sick and suffer and die, right? It's the natural cycle of life. But we don't want that to be the natural cycle of life. Like, oh, hell no, someone died? No, I'm going to be upset. I'm going to be sad. I'm going to cry my eyes out for the next year. For what reason? What good is that doing to you? It's one thing to mourn. It's another thing to be addicted to that feeling of mourning. Because I don't want to say most people, but a lot of people get addicted to that feeling of mourning because they want to hang on to that memories and experiences and the feelings they've had with that person that passed. They're hanging on to that so hard that the only comfort they're getting is the comfort, the suffering of mourning. That suffering is bringing them comfort. What a stupid comfort that is. But that's the thing, right? We can't be attached. We can't cling to things that are going to change, which unfortunately is everything in life. So the moment that we're able to let go of that clinging to that attachment, then whatever happens to it won't really bother us. We can acknowledge, yes, this person has passed, my flower bed has been destroyed, or, whatever other thing. Make the acknowledgement. It's okay to acknowledge that there is sadness in that situation. But we can't hold on to that sadness as if it's going to give us lasting comfort. Yes, sir.
The flower bed. When we plant the flowers, we're wanting that. There's some peak. This is the point where all the flowers are at their best shape. It's the most beautiful. But that's a concept as well, because there's time you're planting in the dirt. The flowers bloom and they're beautiful, and even if nobody steps on them, they're going to die.
Mm-hmm.
The flowers are going to die, and they're going to look horrible. They're going to look like they died, and that's not horrible. Because that's the attachment. You want them to be beautiful.
Right.
So, I guess the lesson is from the time you start scraping in the dirt, is not to allow that desire for perfect flower.
Mm-hmm.
Because all you're doing is you're scraping the dirt and putting the seeds there, covering it up, and it does its own thing. It is its own process. But that process is going to peak and then it's going to subside into that.
Right.
So even if nobody stomps on your flower garden, there's some sadness. You can feel sad when you see all the flowers like they're yearly flowers and they're going to die. So you just go, oh, well, these are the kind of flowers that die. Let me put some of the ones that last during the winter. But you're not really controlling that.
Right. Think of the mandalas that Tibetan monks create, right? Made of sand. Make these extremely intricate, complicated designs. They look absolutely beautiful and have so much detail for such a small surface area. But then at the end of it, they do a little ceremony and they destroy the mandala. They destroy something they've spent hundreds of hours on, potentially days or months or years, to create something that's so beautiful and visually appealing, just to destroy it. I find that such a beautiful act of kindness to ourselves, because it's showcasing exactly what we're talking about. Something as beautiful, as intricate, and as complicated as this mandala will get destroyed. And the joy that we got from it, from seeing it, is impermanent. So even though we don't make mandalas in our tradition, but I find the ceremony of mandala making to be a beautiful thing and a constant reminder of impermanence, which underlines every single piece of teaching and practice that we do. You have 2 minutes.
Mala seems to represent more desires rather than the contemplation of death. What should come first? The contemplation of desires being permanent, or the contemplation of death being permanent? Or should they both be tackled at the same time?
Well, they're both the same thing. Anything that you have to add the word impermanent to is the exact same thing. It doesn't matter if it's life, death, flowers, statues, people. If there's a concept of impermanence to anything, they're all the exact same thing. They arise and they cease. So it doesn't matter what the topic, what the item is, it arises and it ceases. There's no point of characterizing what should come first. But a caveat to that is, well, even though they're all the same, at a more basic level, then yeah, there's some benefit to meditating on specific topics in sequential order first, right? To have a deeper conversation, have a deeper insight into things. But ultimately, at the end of the day, they're all the same thing. They're all the same thing. Because even when you contemplate on the impermanence of, let's say, your house, right? When we're thinking in things that anything that is impermanent, it's important to not just recognize that the house is impermanent, but recognize the process of how the house was created in the first place, right? Because the house was an empty plot of land, and then it arose into a house. And eventually it'll cease to be a house when it collapses. Likewise, when someone is born, they're born out of nothing into something, going back to nothing. So anything that is impermanent arises and ceases. They're all really the same thing. But at a more fundamental level, it is going to be a little bit more beneficial for some people to not tackle the idea of death early on.
Might be differently attached in different type of manner, so it's not best to probably tackle like death first, or maybe tackle desires first. Even though they're both impermanent, you kind of, it depends on how the ego is weighing each particular thing.
Right.
So there exists sort of a weight that exists kind of in the mind or in the body that one has to just get rid of.
Right.
Nirvana comes back. It's not something that's always good. It's not something that's so completely easy to eradicate. Because at some level, it comes back. He pops back in. You have to get rid of him again. It's not something that you just, you know what I mean? Because then that would be, upon doing that, wouldn't that be nirvana or enlightenment in a sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Just the way that the Buddha gives his disciples topics of meditation, right? He reflects on the person that he's giving the topic to, right? Because in many stories, he can give out, the Buddha knows what is going to cause people to become enlightened, right? He gave us the roadmap. He gave us the blueprints. He knows what's going to make us free. But he's not going to come up to every single person and say, you need to meditate only on this thing. Whether you're dumb, whether you're smart, whether you're a genius, whether you're high-born, low-born, whatever it may be, right? He's not going to give everybody a blanket topic of meditation because not everybody's going to comprehend it the same way. Not everyone's going to come to the same realization. And so someone needs something at a lesser level, someone else needs something at a higher level, etc., etc. So people get different topics of meditation. All my students, when they become my students, they all get topics of meditation too, according to what I believe is their understanding and what I believe they need to work on. So some may get topics on death, some may get topics on impermanence, some may get topics on desire, some may get topics on whatever it may be, right? From what I can sense that they need help with or need to work on, right? But at the end of the day, every single person is going to come to the exact same conclusion. Likewise, the reason why you have tens of thousands of sutras, right, is because the Buddha taught people the same topic, but in different ways according to their understanding, according to the audience he was teaching. So even though the tens of thousands of sutras that we have, if we were all to break it down into specific topics, there'll be less than 1,000. But because when he goes to a village that's a poor village, where people who are uneducated, illiterate, don't really have a very comprehensive understanding of the world, he's going to teach them at their level. Then when he goes and teaches people at the palaces, and high ministers who are highly educated, highly knowledgeable in whatever matters it is, he's going to teach them at a level that they're going to be able to understand. But both situations are the exact same topic taught in different ways.
It seems like he's applying a observational technique based on eye perception to understand the innate qualities of the particular person who's addressing, and by applying the expedient means, he's able to see those qualities within the person and apply sort of expedient means to help them get to on the path. And that's a beautiful thing. I would say that it's rooted in a sense perception, and a couple sense perceptions. To be able to do that with individuals on an observation basis is profound. It's amazing. I mean, that's a talent. You know what I mean?
And that's something you can do for yourself, right? In our meditation classes, when we were discussing 5 hindrances, right? These are the hindrances that will arise during meditation, regardless of your level of meditation. A hindrance will arise in one way, shape, or form. And during meditation, when we label things, right? When we label things that arise as a distraction or as a feeling or an emotion, whatever it may be, and we label them, every single label will fall under one of those 5 hindrance categories. So at the end of the meditation, when we can analyze what bucket is heaviest, then we know, okay, this hindrance is the most stressing for me, right? So let's say the first hindrance is sensual pleasure, sensual desire. You have a lot of sensual desire, and that's the object of meditation you need to work on. That's the path you need to work on the most. Or if it's restlessness, right? You have your bucket of restlessness is heavy, or the heaviest, then you know you need to work on your restlessness, right? And so you can do that self-observation for yourself. If you do not have, for those that don't have teachers or don't have access to someone that can help them, you can do that same practice, that same sensing of what is needed to be worked on. I'll stop talking. We're still behind time. We're going to change out our books to the general chant books since we have spoken too much. But yeah. So if there are no other questions, then we will transfer the merit and go to chanting. I'll just let, yeah. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha Namo Shakyamuni Buddha Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. For any positive karmic action we've accumulated here today, we wish to transfer the merit to all sentient beings and wish them full enlightenment. We'll just do our general chant, general service. Page 7. Body, speech, and mind in oneness, I send my heart along with the sound of the. May the hearers awaken from forgetfulness and transcend all anxiety and sorrow. Listen, listen, this wonderful brings me back to my true home. In gratitude we offer this incense to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas throughout space. May it be fragrant as earth herself, reflecting our careful efforts, our wholehearted mindful, and the fruit of understanding slowly ripening. May we and all beings become of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. May we awaken from forgetfulness and realize our true home. The incense in the censer, all the Dharma realm in every auspicious clouds appearing, our sincere intention thus fulfill, as all Buddhas now show their perfect body homage to the incense cloud canopy. Bodhisattva and great Bodhisattva. Homage to the eternal abiding Buddhas, the supreme Dharma and sagely Sangha throughout the Dharma realm and of empty space and 3 periods of time. Homage to the fundamental teacher Shakyamuni Buddha Maitreya, honor future Buddha Manjushri, great wisdom Bodhisattva, versal great conduct Bodhisattva, all Dharma guarding Deva Bodhi, and the glorious mountain assembly of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Homage to Amitabha Buddha in the land of ultimate bliss, Avalokiteshvara, great compassion Bodhisattva, great strength Bodhisattva, Earth-stored grey vow Bodhisattva, and the assembly of great pure seed Bodhisattva. Great compassionate Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, Namo. Great compassionate Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, Namo. Great compassionate Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Namo Ratnatrayaya, Namo Aryavadokiteshvaraya, Bodhisattvaya, Mahasattvaya, Mahakarunikaya, Om Sarvaravai, Sodanadasya, Namo Skidvai, Maharyavadokiteshvararam Dava, Namo Narakinde Swami Sarvadhatu Shubhamaji Sarva Sadva Namo Vasava Namo Bhagamavitatu Tadyata Om Avarokilo Kati Kati Hiri Mahabodhisat Sarva Sarva Mala Mala Mahima Hiridayam Guru Guru Karmam Doro Do Vishati Mahavishati Dara Dara Diri Nishvaraya Chara Chara Mama Vimala Muktirehiya Hishina Shina Ashram Shavishvam Prashaya Holo Holo Mara Holo Holo He Sara Sara Siri Siri Soro Soro Bodhiya Bodhiya Bodhaya Bodhaya Maitreya Nara Kindira Shrina Vaya Mana Swaha Siddhaya Swaha Maha Siddhaya Swaha Siddha Yogeshvaraya Swaha Narakin Swaha Vada Nara Swaha Sira Simha Mukaya Swaha Sarva Maha Siddhaya Swaha Chakra Siddhaya Swaha Padma Kasaya Swaha Narakindi Vagalaya Swaha Mavadi Sankaraya Swaha Namo Trayaya Namo Aryavadokiteshvaraya Swaha Om Siddhyanto Mantra Padaya Swaha. The Dharma body is bringing morning light in concentration. My heart is at peace, a half smile is born on my lips. This is a new day and I vow to go through it in mindfulness. The sun of wisdom has risen, shining every direction. Noble Sangha, diligently bring your mind into meditation. Namo Shakyamunaye Bodhaya, Namo Shakyamunaye Bodhaya, Namo Shakyamunaye Bodhaya. The answer the one who bows and the one who is bowed to are both by nature empty. Therefore the communication between them is inexpressibly perfect. Our practice center is the net of Indra, reflecting all Buddhas everywhere, as my own person reflects in all Buddhas, to whom with my whole life I go for refuge. Offering light in the 10 directions, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, to whom we bow in gratitude. Teaching and living the way of awareness in the very midst of suffering and confusion. Shakyamuni Buddha, the awakened one, to whom we bow in gratitude. Cutting through ignorance, awakening our hearts and our minds, Manjushri, the Bodhisattva of great understanding, to whom we bow in gratitude. Working mindfully, working joyfully for the sake of all beings, Samantabhadra, the Bodhisattva of great action, to whom we bow in gratitude. Responding to suffering, serving beings in countless ways, Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva of great compassion, to whom we bow in gratitude. Seed of awakening and loving kindness in children, sprouts in all beings, Maitreya, the Buddha to be, to whom we bow in gratitude. Showing the way fearlessly and compassionate, to lead the stream of all our ancestral teachers, to whom we bow in gratitude. The Dharma is deep and lovely. We now have a chance to see it and practice it. We vow to realize its true meaning. Heart of the Prajnaparamita, the Bodhisattva Avalokita, while moving in the deep course of Prajnaparamita, shed light on the 5 skandhas and found them equally empty. After this penetration, he overcame ill-being, bliss, and Shariputra. Form is emptiness, emptiness is form, form is not other than emptiness, emptiness is not other than. The same is true with feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness. Listen, Shariputra, all dharmas are marked with emptiness. They are neither produced nor destroyed, neither defiled nor immaculate, neither increasing nor decreasing. Therefore in empty there is neither form nor feelings, no perception nor mental formations nor consciousness, no eye or ear or nose or tongue or body or mind, no form, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, no object, no realms of elements, no interdependent origins, and no extinction of them, no will being, no cause of ill being, no end of ill being, and no path, no understanding. Because there is no attainment, the Bodhisattvas ground in Prajnaparamita find no obstacles for their minds. Having no obstacles, they overcome fear, liberating themselves forever from illusion and realizing perfect nirvana. All Buddhas in the past, present, and future arrive at Anuttara destroyer of ill being, the incorruptible truth, the mantra of Prajnaparamid, should therefore be proclaimed. Gate gate para samgate bodhi swaha. Gate para samgate bodhi swaha. Gate para samgate bodhi swaha. We invoke your name, Avalokiteshvara. We aspire to learn your way of listening in order to help relieve the suffering in the world. You know how to listen in order to understand. We invoke your name in order to practice listen with all our attention and open-heartedness. We will sit and listen without any prejudice. We will sit and listen without judging or reacting. We will sit and listen in order to understand. We will sit and listen so attentively that we will be able to person is saying and also what is being left unsaid. We know that just by listening deeply we already alleviate a great deal of pain and suffer in the other person. We invoke your name, Manjushri. We aspire to learn your way, which is to be still and to look deeply into the heart of things and into the hearts of people. We will look with all our attention, open-heartedness. We will look with unprejudiced eyes. We will look without judging or reacting. We will look deeply so that we will be able to see and understand the roots of suffering, the impermanent and selfless nature of all that is. We will practice your way of using the sword of understanding to cut through the bonds of suffering, selves and other species. We invoke your name, Samantabhadra. We aspire to practice your vow with the eyes and heart of compassion to bring joy to one person in the morning and to ease the pain of one person in the half. You know that the happiness and we aspire to practice joy on the path of service. We know that every word, every look, every action, and every smile can bring happiness to others. We know that if we practice wholeheartedly, we ourselves may become an inexhaustible source of peace and joy for our loved and for all species. We invoke your name, Chitti Gadwa. We aspire to learn your way of being present where there is darkness, suffering, oppression, and despair, so we can bring light, hope, relief, and liberation to those places. We are determined not to forget about, abandon those in desperate situations. We will do our best to establish contact with those who cannot find way out of their suffering, those whose cries for help, justice, equality, and human rights are not being heard. We know that hell can be found many places on earth. We will do our best not to contribute to creating more hells on earth and to help transform. Pity exists. We will practice in order to realize the qualities of perseverance and stability, so that like the earth we can always be supportive and faithful to those in I take refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows me the way in this life. I take refuge in the Dharma, the way of understanding and of love. I take refuge in the Sangha, the community that lives in harmony and awareness. Dwelling in the refuge of Buddha, I clearly see the path of light and beauty in the world. Dwelling in refuge of Dharma, I learn to open many doors on the path of transformation. Dwelling in the refuge of Sangha, shining light that supports me, keeping my practice free of obstruction. Taking refuge in the Buddha, in myself I aspire to help all people recognize their own awakened nature, realizing the mind of love, taking refuge in the Dharma. In myself I aspire to help all people fully master the ways of practice and walk together on the path of liberation, taking refuge in the Sangha. In myself I aspire to help all people build fourfold communities to embrace all beings and support their transformation. Reciting the sutras, practicing the way of awareness, gives rise to benefits without limits. We vow to share the fruits with all beings. We vow to offer tribute to parents, teachers, friends, and numerous beings who give guidance and support along the path. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Friendly reminder that on Wednesday, New Year's Day, we'll have our New Year Great Compassion ceremony to ring in and bless the New Year. So I invite everyone to please join us on Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. We'll have a New Year blessing for the year and for the attendees as well. Thank you. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha.